Rural Nebraska. Quiet fields stretching for miles, gentle winds rustling through tall corn. It seems peaceful until the sun sets, because at night, something else walks between those stalks. This is the true story of what happened to two cousins one July night, and why one of them swore never to return. Jake was 16 that summer. He lived in the city, concrete, traffic, and noise. His parents thought the countryside would be good for him, so he went to spend a few weeks at his cousin Ben's farm. A big, old house, miles from town. Acres of fields, including the family cornfield, now shoulder-high and swaying in the breeze. The first few days were simple. Fishing in the pond, helping in the barn, watching old movies at night. But Ben kept warning Jake, half-jokingly, about the cornfield. "Don't go in there after dark," he'd say. "Weird things happen." Jake laughed it off. City kid pride. But curiosity grew. On the 5th night, Jake woke up to a sound, like whispering, carried by the wind. He looked out the window. Nothing. Just the cornfield, still and silent. The next morning, he asked Ben if he heard anything. Ben went quiet. "Sometimes the wind talks. That's what Grandpa says," he muttered. Later that day, they found something odd, rows of corn trampled in a winding path. But there were no tracks, no animal prints, no tire marks, just twisted stalks, flattened in a spiraling pattern. That night, Ben said, "Let's do it. Let's walk the corn after dark, just for fun." Jake hesitated, but pride made him agree. At 10:30 p.m., flashlights in hand, they stepped between the stalks. The air inside the cornfield was different, thicker, quieter. Sound didn't carry right. They joked at first, trying to scare each other, but soon the laughter faded, because they heard it, rustling, not wind, something moving. Ben whispered, "Did you hear that?" Jake nodded. They turned around, nothing there. Then, growling, low, like a dog with a sore throat. The flashlight flickered, and something ran past them, too fast, too quiet. They ran. But Ben tripped, screaming. Jake turned and froze. Something pale was wrapped around Ben's leg, an arm, too long, bones showing, its fingers gripped like claws. Jake kicked. He doesn't remember how many times, but finally, the grip loosened. They scrambled out of the cornfield, sobbing, shaking, blood on Ben's ankle. Inside the house, they locked the doors. Jake yelled for Grandpa. When they told him what happened, the old man didn't look shocked. He just stared at the window and said, "It's back again. I warned you boys." Jake demanded answers. Grandpa sighed. "Years ago, your uncle got pulled under in that same field. We found him days later, eyes wide open, mouth filled with dirt. No one believed what I saw, but I know. It lives in the corn." That night, Grandpa nailed shut every window, sat on the porch with a shotgun. Ben couldn't sleep. Jake didn't either. Despite everything, Jake stayed one more night. At midnight, they heard scratching at the back door. They peeked through the curtains. Something was standing at the edge of the cornfield, watching. It was tall, its limbs bent wrong, and it didn't blink. The next morning, Grandpa drove Jake to town. "Don't come back until the corn's been burned," he said. Jake left. He never saw Ben again. Years later, he learned the cornfield was left untended. No more harvest, just weeds. And one summer, the whole thing mysteriously burned. Locals said it was lightning, but Jake knew better. Now Jake's grown. He lives in the city again. But some nights, when the wind blows just right, he swears he hears rustling outside his apartment window. And once, just once, he found corn husks on his fire escape. That's when he moved. Because some things don't stay buried, and the thing in the cornfield doesn't forget. The woods are supposed to be peaceful, quiet, healing, but some places in nature aren't meant to be camped in. This is the true story of 5 friends who spent one summer night in the Appalachian Mountains and what watched them from the trees. June 2017. 5 friends, Kyle, Jamie, Rachel, Marco, and Liv, drove into the Appalachian Mountains for a 4-day camping trip. No phones, no Wi-Fi, just tents, food, and stars. They found the perfect site, a clearing surrounded by trees, far from any trails. They set up camp, cooked dinner, and watched the sun sink behind the hills. Kyle had done these trips before. He joked that the deeper you go into the forest, the more you leave the human world behind. But Rachel didn't laugh. She swore she saw movement in the woods during setup, tall and silent. The others brushed it off. That night, they built a fire and passed around marshmallows and ghost stories. Jamie told one about an old mountain spirit who watches campers. Kyle added a joke about Appalachian skinwalkers. They laughed. But sometime around 2 a.m., Liv heard rustling behind her tent. She unzipped the flap. Nothing. Just forest. Still and dark. But when she got back inside, she realized the rustling hadn't stopped. It had moved to the other side. She thought it was an animal, maybe a deer. She didn't wake anyone. The second day passed quietly. They hiked, swam in a creek, and came back exhausted. As the fire cracked again that night, they talked about life. The stars were bright. Then Kyle noticed something. 2 small glowing points between the trees. Like eyes, too high off the ground for an animal. Jamie joked it was an owl. Kyle said owls blink. These didn't. Rachel turned on her flashlight. Nothing there. But when the light clicked off, the eyes returned. Closer this time. They tried to play it cool, but silence fell. Then, something cracked a stick behind the tents. Then another, to the left. They were being circled. Marco grabbed his knife. Kyle stood slowly, scanning with the flashlight. Still nothing. Rachel whispered, "Why doesn't it make any noise?" That's when they saw it. A tall shadow, nearly 7 feet high, just outside the reach of the firelight. Its arms were long, its head too small, and when it moved, the trees didn't. They all backed toward the fire, huddled. Jamie said, "We leave now." No one argued. At 3 a.m., they packed in silence, grabbed only what they could carry, and left. The forest was deathly still. No crickets, no birds, only the sound of their breathing, and something walking just behind them. Every so often, one of them would catch a glimpse, those glowing eyes always watching. When they reached a small trail, Kyle swore he saw it again, closer than before. But it never stepped into full view, as if the fire had protected them, and now it didn't have to. At sunrise, they stumbled into a ranger station, dirty and shaking. The ranger looked at them, took a slow sip of coffee, and said, "You camped up near Clearwater Hollow, didn't you?" They nodded. He sighed. "You're lucky. Not everyone who sees it makes it back. Some get turned around. Some never find the trail again. And some—" "It takes—" Rachel asked, "What is it?" The ranger just said, "Old things live out there. Things we don't name anymore. None of them camped again." Liv started sleeping with the lights on. Jamie moved to a city. Kyle deleted every picture from that trip. But Rachel sometimes still dreams of those eyes, watching, waiting. And every summer night, when the forest is quiet, she wonders if it's still out there, looking for firelight.
Arizona. Summer heat. Luxury vacation. Some homes are meant for comfort. Some hide things that were never meant to be disturbed. This is the true story of a girl named Emily, and the pool house that should have stayed locked forever. It was July 2015. Emily, 17, was on a week-long summer vacation with her parents and younger brother Liam. They'd rented a massive Airbnb in Scottsdale, Arizona, modern, sunlit, fully furnished, with one major perk, a private backyard pool. Behind the pool sat a small structure, white stucco, tiled roof, just one window. The pool house. It looked empty. Locked. Emily's mom joked, probably just storage. Don't go in there. They didn't. Not at first. The house was everything they wanted: relaxation, barbecue nights, desert sunsets. But by the second morning, Emily noticed the pool house door was cracked open. She asked her dad if he'd gone in. He hadn't. He locked it again. But the next morning, same thing. Only now, the door was wider. Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time she swam, she'd glance at that pool house. It felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. One night while swimming alone, she swore she saw a face, pale, blurred, just inside the window. She screamed. Her mom came running. But the pool house was locked. Her dad got annoyed, saying it was probably a trick of the light. But Emily wasn't convinced. That night, her dreams were filled with water. Dark water. And a hand, dragging her down. Emily asked her dad to check the backyard security system. The Airbnb had 2 night vision cameras watching the pool area. He agreed, mostly to calm her down. They sat at the kitchen table, rewinding footage from the night before. At exactly 2:41 a.m., the pool house door swung open slowly, and something crawled out. It wasn't walking. It slid, on elbows and knees, like it was used to dragging itself. It moved to the edge of the pool. Then looked directly at the camera. Frame glitches. Next image, nothing there. Door closed. Emily gasped. Her mom looked sick. Her dad just said, "We're leaving. Now." They packed before sunrise. As they left, Emily's dad called the Airbnb owner. He hesitated for a long moment after hearing what they saw. Then said, flatly, "You're the 3rd family this summer to leave early." Emily's mom asked, "What's in the pool house?" The man exhaled. "It used to be a guest room. Years ago. Before the incident." She pressed him, but he refused to explain. Just added, "We don't clean it anymore. Don't open it. I thought we made that clear." Emily couldn't let it go. Back home, she started researching the property. It didn't take long to find a news article from 2008. A woman named Ana Reyes had drowned in a private pool in Scottsdale. The death was ruled accidental, but her body wasn't found for 2 days. When they did find her, she was in the pool house. Autopsy notes mentioned her nails were torn. As if she'd been scratching to get out. Emily checked the address. It was the same house. Against her parents' wishes, Emily returned to the house a year later. It was no longer an Airbnb. Listed for sale. She posed as a buyer and got a short tour from a tired real estate agent. The pool was still there. So was the pool house. Still locked. Still untouched. When she asked about the back structure, the agent said, "That place. We keep it shut. Too many break-ins. Though, funny thing is, there's never any damage to the locks." Before she left, she slipped around back and peered through the window. For just a second, she saw a wet handprint slide slowly down the inside of the glass. To this day, no one knows what crawled out that night. Some say it's Ana Reyes, trapped between water. Summer brings the heat. The golden light, the long days, the laughter. But not everything summer awakens, is meant to be awake. The breeze grows stronger, carrying a distant whisper. You see, most people think winter is the scary season. The darkness, the silence, the cold. But ask anyone who's lived out near the woods, or the fields, or the empty farmhouses baking under the sun. And they'll tell you the truth, summer wakes the old things. The things that sleep under dry earth. The ones that stir when the nights get short, and the air grows thick. When the house is too warm to breathe, you crack open a window. Just a little. For air. For comfort. But what if something's waiting outside that window? Not a thief. Not an animal. Something slower. Smarter. Older. Something that waits for the breeze, to carry it inside. No footsteps. No knocking. Just the soft flutter of your curtain at 2 a.m. And a smell, like rain and rot. Wind becomes more present, like it's pressing against the walls. Narrator, slightly slower. The summer wind is strange. It remembers. It carries voices you haven't heard in years. It whispers names no one else should know. People say they've heard their mother's voice in the wind, even when their mother's been dead for a decade. Others wake up to find muddy footprints by the sill, but no signs of entry. One man swears he saw a hand pull back the curtain from inside the room. But the window was still locked. He sleeps with the AC now. Window sealed. Blinds nailed shut. Everything quiets down, then a very soft whisper, hard to make out. Narrator, low, whispering tone. So if you're sleeping with the window open tonight, maybe think twice. Because when the summer wind blows, it doesn't always blow past you. Sometimes, it stops. And listens. And if it likes what it hears, it might carry something in with it.